Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into an incredibly high-stakes biographical journey. We're going to map out the trajectory of a man whose relentless drive has literally reshaped modern technology, transportation, and aerospace. Get ready for a fascinating breakdown of risk, resilience, and just absolute revolutionary ambition. We're decoding the ultimate first principles thinker to see exactly how he operates and how that unique operating system managed to change the world.
So here's the ultimate question we're answering today. How exactly does someone go from being an isolated, bullied preteen to a titan holding a net worth of nearly $400 billion? Well, the answer lies in an extreme tolerance for risk and a highly disruptive vision that completely dismantles conventional boundaries.
Section 1. A genius in isolation.
Picture this. It's 1971, Pretoria, South Africa. This is where Elon Musk's story begins. And honestly, his childhood was brutal. He faced severe, relentless bullying, once even ending up hospitalized after being thrown down a flight of stairs. To cope with that hostile environment, he developed this trance-like state, a mental isolation where he would visualize complex ideas like a supercomputer. He'd just completely block out the external world. Recognizing pretty early on that his capabilities were rapidly outpacing his surroundings, he firmly believed America was the only country that could actually match his monumental ambitions. So he leveraged his mother's Canadian citizenship to move to Canada in 1989 as a stepping stone, eventually transferring to the University of Pennsylvania in 1992, finally setting foot in the U.S.
There's this story where a younger cousin once told a young Elon she was afraid of the dark. His response? Darkness is only the absence of light. It perfectly captures his hyperlogical, almost emotionless approach to problem solving. Facts over fear, right? It's a foundational trait that kind of made him hard to relate to as a child, but it proved to be his absolute greatest asset as an entrepreneur. That exact emotionalist logic is what later allowed him to risk his entire fortune and push forward when ordinary investors would be completely panicking.
And that raw logic yielded his first technological win super early on. After convincing his dad to buy him a computer with just, get this, 5 kilobytes of memory, he blasted through a programming workbook intended to take 6 months in a mere 3 days. It really highlights a terrifyingly raw processing power. At just 12 years old, he coded a space shooter video game called Blaster and sold it for $500. So technically, this was his very first business.
Section 2. The First Millions. Fast forward to the late 90s. The internet boom is catching fire, and a post-college Musk decides to leap directly into the Silicon Valley startup arena with his brother Kimball. Now, before Google Maps or Yelp existed, people still used physical yellow phone books. Elon saw the sheer inefficiency of this and co-founded Zip2, an online map and directory for businesses. He literally lived in their rented office space, sleeping under his desk and showering at the local YMCA just so he could code day and night. That relentless work ethic paid off massively when Compaq acquired Zip2 for $37 million during the peak of the dot-com boom. Elon walked away with $22 million. At just 27 years old, he's a multi-millionaire.
Now, most people would have just retired right then and there, but not him. Instead, he immediately throws $12 million into disrupting the slow, outdated banking industry with X.com, which soon merged with Peter Thiel's PayPal. His management style here was notoriously ruthless. I mean, he expected coding tasks that normally took weeks to be completed in hours. Ultimately, the board ousted him as CEO while he was literally on his honeymoon. But, crucially, he remained the largest shareholder. So when eBay acquired PayPal for $1.5 billion in 2002, the guy who was fired from the top job netted a staggering $180 million.
Section 3. The Pivot to the Impossible.
In 2002, Musk faced a devastating personal tragedy: the sudden loss of his 10-week-old infant son. Unable to grieve conventionally and unable to even look at the empty cradle, he coped the only way he knew how: by completely throwing his mind into a new, monumental obsession, making humanity a multi-planetary species and getting us to Mars. But when he initially went to Russia to buy intercontinental ballistic missiles to start this project, the aerospace veterans literally laughed at him. They demanded an outrageous $21 million for a single missile. Rebuffed and frustrated, he flies home and calculates the cost of the raw materials himself. The industry standard to launch a 600-kilogram payload at the time was a staggering $70 million. By aggressively stripping away layered inefficiencies, Musk targeted a launch cost of just $7 million with his brand new company, SpaceX.
So how do you actually slash established aerospace costs by 90%? Well, he rolled out 3 massive disruptions. First, he united the design and build teams to completely eliminate miscommunications. Engineers had to sit right next to the people actually building the rockets. Second, vertical integration. This ties directly back to his childhood isolation and self-reliance, right? He trusts his own logic over external suppliers, so he brought the manufacturing of engines and parts entirely in-house. And third, he utilized cheaper, consumer-grade components, like standard radio equipment, where competitors were just overspending wildly on specialized, legacy aerospace parts.
Section 4. The Brink of Ruin.
But look, disrupting a stagnant, deeply complex industry comes with a steep, often brutal learning curve. Space is famously hard. SpaceX's target was to launch the Falcon 1 within a single year. It took 4. And then, absolute disaster. A fuel leak on the first launch, a stage 2 failure on the second, a minor timing error on the third. 3 consecutive, devastating explosions. Over $100 million of his own personal fortune literally burned in midair. By 2008, the company was left with enough funds for only one final do-or-die launch.
And here's the crazy part. At the exact same time, he's fighting an impossible dual-front war. While SpaceX is crashing rockets into the ocean, his other massive bet, Tesla Motors, is rapidly bleeding out. The cost to build the first electric roadster had ballooned to $100,000 per car, way above the planned retail price. Then the 2008 global financial crisis hits. Investors panic and back out. Tesla is weeks away from missing payroll and total bankruptcy. Any logical person would have just saved one company and let the other die to preserve capital, right? Instead, Musk sells off all his personal assets, including his beloved McLaren sports car, risking his entire personal fortune to keep both dreams alive.
Section 5. Revolutionizing Space and Transit.
Then came December 2008, the turning point. With basically their last breath, SpaceX launches the Falcon 1 for a 4th time. The first stage succeeded, the second succeeded, it reached orbit. This made SpaceX the first privately funded liquid propellant rocket in history to achieve this. Weeks later, NASA awards them a massive $1.6 billion Lifeline contract to resupply the space station. Meanwhile, running on fumes, Musk is personally dialing every investor he knew for Tesla, miraculously securing $40 million in emergency funding on Christmas Eve, saving the electric car company just hours before it would have collapsed. Surviving that absolute crucible sparked a massive cascade of industry-defining innovations. And here is the crucial takeaway. All of these subsequent companies, even though they seem completely unrelated, share the exact same underlying DNA. They all rely on removing the middleman, applying first principles physics, and digitizing old hardware industries. SpaceX developed the Falcon 9 with the revolutionary reusable rockets, slashing space travel costs forever. They built Starlink for global satellite internet, and they're currently building Starship for Mars. Tesla shifted from a niche sports car to the Model S, literally a computer on wheels with over-the-air updates, which sparked the entire global EV revolution. He even launched Neuralink to literally bridge the human brain directly with computers.
Section 6. The Controversial Titan.
Of course, with unprecedented power comes intense scrutiny. Through his portfolio of transformative, interconnected companies, his net worth has soared to roughly $400 billion. This is the sheer financial culmination of that high-risk, high-reward mindset we've been tracking today.
To put that staggering number into perspective, his wealth is almost double that of the world's second richest person, Jeff Bezos. It is a level of personal financial power that's honestly difficult to comprehend, built entirely on aggressively disrupting the most entrenched, difficult industries on the planet.
But, that level of wealth and power carries immense complexities. His relentless drive translates directly into extreme work pressure at his companies. We saw his 2022 acquisition of Twitter, now X, lead to immediate mass layoffs and volatile public statements that actually directly impact global stock markets. Furthermore, his recent donation of around $280 million to election campaigning has closely aligned him with significant political figures like President Trump. It's a highly potent mix of immense wealth, media ownership, and political influence, which makes him a highly polarizing figure globally.
So, love him or hate him, he simply can't ignore him. He doesn't just predict the future, he's actively building the infrastructure for it, relying on that same supercomputer focus he developed as an isolated kid in South Africa. But as we close out this explainer, we have to leave you with this thought to chew on. When it comes to the automotive grid, human spaceflight, global satellite internet, and even human-computer interfaces, what happens when one single man holds so much of our collective future in his hands? Thank you for exploring this remarkable trajectory with us today on The Explainer.